I was a smoker, so we would rush right out to the smoking area and just have wonderful conversations. I think that was the year I met Craig Boyd, because he was a smoker and he could come out too. But you know, I treasure that time that I had to speak. And I didn't really talk to a lot of people that year, but I did want to throw that in about Rick and Marcia and how important that was to me to actually meet these people that I considered to be rock stars. I mean, they were like my heroes. And I go to my first conference and they're speaking, and I'm in the same room with them, and it's just awesome. And the second big book, of course, is Megafox, because they were all paperback books, and I really cracked the spines on these books, right? Megafox was one of those that I constantly found myself going back to. I would read a chapter, and then it wouldn't really apply to what I was doing, but 6 months later, I would be doing something, and I'd say, you know, I think I saw that in Megafox, and I would go back and read it and get me started again. The next book was not a programming book. It was Fox Tales, Behind the Scenes at Fox Software, and this is my original copy I got from Henson Ward. Everybody's read this, or I'm sure some people haven't. This was written by Kerry Neitz, and he was hired out of college to work at Fox Software when Fox Software was a very small company. I mean, he was there when it went from FoxBase Plus to FoxPro 1 and FoxPro 2, and then when the merger happened, he actually moved from Toledo to Redmond and became a Microsoft employee. And this is a fantastic read. He's a good writer, and if you have any interest at all in the history of FoxPro or Fox Software, if you have any interest at all about working in teams, if you've ever felt like everybody on the team is smarter than me, and I hope they don't ever figure that out, you know, something like that. It's just a wonderful read. The main reason I bought it when it first came out was because it was only $9.95, and for Henson work, that was a really cheap book. You know? So there's never been a time that I've read this book where I didn't start on the first page and complete the book like in one sitting. I never put the book down. Once I started reading it, it was a page turner. I went through the entire book. And I really, really like this book. And I like it so much, Kerry Neitz did a 10th anniversary edition. I guess he kind of self-published it, and it had an additional foreword in the book, and he also had a couple of pages of author notes. And I thought, you know, I really ought to get a copy of that from Amazon. And, you know, both of these books are available on Amazon. If you order in the next 45 minutes, you got Amazon Prime, have it shipped to the hotel. It'll be here before the conference closes on Sunday, and you can read it on the plane on the way home. But I really wanted to read the extra forward, and I wanted to read the author's notes. And I also wanted to have a prop that I could hold up and look like I'm doing something during the demo. But otherwise, I don't really need this book because I've already got the old one. So I'm going to give this one to Southwest Fox, and they can give it away if they want to. And you don't really have to worry. I only read the forward. I only read the author's notes. It's a clean book. It's never been in the bathroom. I probably wouldn't borrow this one from you. Now, Kerry, when he moved out to Redmond, he also got, as part of the package, he got Microsoft stock options, like a lot of people did back in the day. And then, of course, Microsoft stock took off. And after he was there for a few years, he decided to exercise his options and become a full-time author. And Fox Tales was actually the first book he ever published. He had already written 2 books, but they were unpublished, and Will gave him a shot. He said, I think people would want to read this book, and publish this first book. He's now an award-winning sci-fi author. And there's one of his books that he's written. And I remember when I first saw that title, I'm like, there cannot be Amish vampires in space. And I'm thinking it's got to be like a niche, a mosh, something. It's an acronym. It's some kind of sci-fi term I've never heard of, right? So I decided to look at the blurb for it. It says Jebediah has a secret, and I'm like, holy cow, it's literally Amish vampires in space. Now, the moral of that story is if you work in software development long enough, you will probably lose your mind. Now, there's one book that I haven't mentioned yet that probably had the most impact on my career. And it probably actually extended my FoxPro career. And that was Internet Applications with Visual FoxPro 6 by Rick Straw. That book came out in 1999. It's 20 years old. And that book has the most dog ears, the most highlights, the most underlines, the most cracked spine of any Henson workbook I've ever bought. And I'm going to jump back to 2005. Southwest Fox 2005. Rick Straw was an announced speaker at that conference. Well, my biggest goal, besides meeting some people in the FoxPro community, was that I wanted to meet Rick Straw. And I wanted to meet him because I wanted to be like, dude, your work, your blog, the tools you write, the book that I've used so much in my career has really helped my career, and I just want to say thank you. And I can tell by the applause that you remember when I was talking about how all these people were rock stars to me. Well, there's rock stars, and then there's Rick Straw. They even got the same initials, Rick Schwimmer notwithstanding. So I fly all the way across the country. I go to my first conference. I'm nervous as heck. You know, I meet very few people unless they smoked or if they were just the nicest guy in the world, Rick Schwimmer. But my goal was I want to meet Rick Straw, and I want to thank him for the effect that he had on my career. The first day came and went. And I didn't work up the nerve to talk to him. The second day came and went. I didn't work up the nerve to talk to him. I go to a session on the third day of the event, and he's giving the session. You know how at the end, when the speaker is like taking down their laptop and stuff, people will walk up and talk to them, ask them questions, things like that. I was like frozen in my chair, and I couldn't go up and say hi to him. And then the next thing I knew, it was the closing session. And then poof, the conference was over. Everybody's dispersing. People are heading out to the airport, things like that. I had a later flight that night, so I was just hanging around. And I'm kicking myself the whole time. I was like, doggone it, all I wanted to do was meet Rick Straw. And I end up at the exhibitor section, you know, where the trade show and stuff is, and Rick had a booth there. And I don't know if it was Westwind or Code or maybe both. But Rick was taking down the booth, and he had another guy working with him. And I was like, doggone it, Kevin, this is it. You got to go. You got to let him know. And I walked up to the booth, right? And I'm standing there, and I haven't said anything. And Rick is still busy. And then all of a sudden, he feels a presence, and he turns around, and he's like, can I help you? And my first thought was, oh my God, Rick Straw just helped me. Holy cow. Maybe I'll get his autograph. And so I took a deep breath, and I was like, you know, in my mind, I'm like, dude, I just wanted you to know how much your work has had an effect on my career. Thank you. I took a deep breath, and I looked at him, and I said, thank you for the book. And he's kind of confused. He's looking at me, he's like, excuse me? And I'm like, okay, I messed that up big time, right? I don't even know where that voice came from. I didn't say what I wanted to say, so I got to give it another shot. I took a deep breath, and I was like, thank you for the book. Now he's totally confused. He's got this puzzled look on his face. He turns around and looks at the guy that's taking down the booth with him. He's like, we give away a book? And the guy's like, no, we didn't give away a book. So I'm like, all right, I'm 0 for 2. You got to do this, Kevin. Come on. And suddenly my real voice came out. It wasn't this one. And I was like, no. You didn't give me a book. I bought your book. And I just wanted to thank you for it because I wouldn't be doing anything on the internet if it wasn't for you. And he was like, you're welcome. And so then I was walking away, and I was like, I just had a conversation with I had to share that story because it's true. It really happened. And, there were so many books coming out from Henson Work at the time. I was thinking, hey, I blog. Maybe I should write a book. I shouldn't, because for all of the speakers you're going to see here this weekend, all of them are going to show you best practices. I'm not like exactly a best practices kind of guy. And speaking of the speakers, I guess I'm considered a speaker as a keynote speaker. I know that I'm not the youngest, and I'm not the handsomest, and I'm not the most professional speaker you're going to see this week. But let me tell you something. I'm not the smartest one either. And I always thought that if I wanted to write a book about my adventures in Visual FoxPro, I had a perfect title for it. It's based on an error message that I got from Visual FoxPro. And it was one I had never seen before, never even heard of, but it popped up right in the middle of a presentation I was doing at the Chicago FoxPro Users Group, and it was catastrophic failure. My adventures with Visual FoxPro. And I do my best thinking sitting down. And if you'll indulge me for a minute, I'll get serious here, and I'll kind of get serious. I can't get totally serious because that's just not my style. And I've been drinking herbal tea. There was a movie that came out back in 1998. It was called Fallen, and it had Denzel Washington in it. He played a Philadelphia cop, and he was battling demons and stuff like that. But there was a piece of dialogue in that movie that I just loved. And I've got the quote for it here on a slide. And it says, "There are moments which mark your life. Moments when you realize nothing will ever be the same. And time is divided into two parts. Before this and after this." And something about that quote just really stuck with me. And throughout my life over the last 20 years, it's like I can think of different points in my life where all of a sudden things changed. It was before that happened and after. And I'll give you an example. There was a time before I became a father, and then after I became a father. There's a time before I met my wife, and after I met my wife. So, time before I got arrested for the first time, and after I got arrested for the first time. But as far as my career went, and I really never had a career, so to speak. I worked at QVC, the shopping channel. Yeah, I answered calls and took orders, and every now and then they let me pull the lucky numbers and they let me spin the prize wheel on TV. Then I went to Arbitron, and it was at Arbitron where I just fell over backwards into programming with FoxPro. So as far as my career goes, there was before FoxPro, and there was after FoxPro. And I've been using FoxPro for 25 years. I've been extremely lucky. I've been extremely blessed the whole time. And there is no way I ever would have used FoxPro as long as I have if it hadn't been for the Fox family. Because sharing information, teaching, mentoring, just the whole 9 yards. And I read something, there was an article that I think Alan Driver and Lisa Slater-Nichols had written about the FoxPro community, and there was a piece in it that was just perfect. And it said, with the FoxPro community, it doesn't matter when you step in. Whether you were there back in 1986, 87, 88, 89, or whether you jumped in 2005, or even if you're jumping in 2019. It's all the same, and it's all part of the Fox family. And everybody in this room is a part of the Fox family. You're here. There's a lot of people who aren't here, but they're still a part of the Fox family. There's people that's moved on past Fox, and they're still a part of the Fox family. And sadly, there's more than a few people that have passed away, but you still feel their presence when you go to conferences. I feel it And I didn't even meet a lot of the people that have passed on, that a lot of the people in here knew personally. And you know, it's just been a really important part of my life. Everybody in this room has been, even if I'm meeting you for the first time. I'm going to take a deep breath, and I just want to say to all of you, thank you. Gatherings was going to give me $5 every time. Yeah. And I wanted to mention standing ovation, and I was like, well, I'm not going to tell you to do it, but if you do, let's just say, Doug owes me. And that's it. Thank you. Hope everybody enjoys it. Oh, I am wearing the mic. Hang on. I'm so glad I didn't get the
John, I just wanted to say something that, Kevin, thank you for inspiring all of us. A few minutes ago, I didn't really know what to say when these people were kind enough to hand me the trophy, because as many of you know, I don't usually say many serious things. So I just said thank you. When I went back to my seat, there was a text on my phone. My daughter is in labor with her first child. She went into labor about 15 minutes before the keynote started, and she instructed my wife, under no circumstances was she to text me or call me until the presentation was over. When my wife said, why? She said, because I know how much Southwest Fox means to me. So thank you. Now, thank you.
That's our keynote. So as soon as we're done, out the doors, around the corner, into the Desert Rose, have some drinks, meet the exhibitors, chat with your fellow conference attendees. Thank you very much.